This is Master Your Mindset with Coach Mark.
All right, guys, welcome back to another Monday episode, and I got a great episode for you guys here today. Really, I'm going to be talking to you specifically about how you can stop feeling like a leadership fraud when things especially don't go as well as planned, so that you can really stop shaming yourself, self-sabotaging, and actually show up as the kind of leader that you want to show up in the world. One of the things that I'm going to be doing very soon is I'm going to be giving this as a live presentation. And anytime I do something, I really want to bring you guys the best. So I figured, why not bring it here to the podcast? Because I know a lot of people have this issue specifically around leadership, but it's also like a universal principle. It has a lot to do with like the difference between confidence and self-confidence, and really how you can like find the confidence that you need in yourself, even when things don't go as planned, and even when you've never done that thing before. So guys, the reason why I really want to focus on this is because when people are being led, they want to be led by a confident leader. And a confident leader doesn't have all the answers. It's not something that like you have to have succeeded in every area of your life before you can actually start helping and leading others. You just need to have confidence in what you're doing and confidence in yourself. And I'm going to share you guys today how you can actually do that, because confidence is an internal game, all right? Now, what most people do is when they put on their leadership hat and something doesn't go as planned, they make it mean something about them as a leader. They make it mean something about they're not good enough, they need to work harder, they need to learn other tactics, but they don't do it in a way that's like from your heart. They're doing it more in a way from your head, like beating yourself up, thinking that that's the best situation for yourself. As a matter of fact, most people don't understand that that's actually something you can control. What's kind of going on in here in terms of like what you promote to be most of your attention on. And so when you have that initial feeling, actually it starts from a thought, but when you have that initial feeling in your body, you kind of feel like that's just the path you have to go down. But that's not the case at all. If you understand the skills of life coaching, you know that that's not the case at all, and you can make adjustments as you go, okay? Now, when you do decide to go down this path of beating yourself up, you wind up actually hurting yourself, but you also hurt other people. So when you have something that doesn't go as planned, or even you're about to start something or try something new you've never done before, if you start to get into that self-sabotage mode, start beating yourself up, you're not good enough, in reality, you actually will manifest that. If you notice, whenever you have this feeling of like lacking confidence, the actions that you take after that are never positive ones. They're never ones where you're going out and inspiring the world. They're never ones that you get up despite being uncomfortable and like really share maybe your vision or share what it is that you want to help people accomplish. Like you don't do that from a place of like, I don't have confidence. And that's why today I want to share a different way. I want to share a different way. Now, you guys, if you've been listening to this podcast, and of course, if you're in our 626 program or our life coach school, you know there's this difference between visible and invisible elements, okay? Visible and invisible elements. Let me tell you a little bit, or separate these out a little bit, okay? So the visible elements are the actions you take, the behaviors that you employ, okay? They're the results that you create. They're like the legacy that you create. It's like this book, okay? Those are visible elements. But there's a lot of invisible elements that go into that to make it even possible. It's things like your belief. It's things like your purpose, things like your potential. It's things that you can't really see on the outside. You see the fruits of that thing, all right? So when we're talking about invisible things like your belief, it's the difference between if you're like, let's say you have a to-do list, right? You have a list of things that you're going to do for your business. You have a list of things you're going to do with your family, and you're just checking the boxes. You're like, okay, I just got to get this done. I got to get this done. I got to get this done. That has a different kind of energy because there's a different invisible element that's coming in here. But if you sit down for a second, and even if it's like 30 seconds and you read like an affirmation, or you think about the reason why you need to be on your A game. If I ask you, who is it that you're actually fighting for? If I ask you to picture, if you have a business, I've asked you to picture like the changes that you've been able to experience in your life, and what opportunity are you preventing other people from actually being a part of because you're never telling them about what it is you do as a business? And when you think about that, you think about all the changes that it's done for you and all the changes that you could potentially do for other people. When you share this with them, irregardless of whether or not they decide to, it's like you not preventing them from taking action, or basically you making the decision for them. When you open it up to like the possibility, that's when you're like, I've got to do this. and not only am I going to check the box, but the fire's going to be all on my eyeballs. I'm like, I am ready to be on my A game. It's whenever we like get into onto a stage. So I'm going to be doing a presentation pretty soon I think there's going to be 1,000 people that are going to be there. Beforehand, I make sure that I focus on the invisible elements, all right? The visible ones are like my PowerPoint or what I'm going to be talking about, right? But the invisible elements is like, what opportunity do I have right now on stage to impact somebody on a really deep level? What kind of impact will this have on their family, on their life, and in their future? Like even on the legacy that they're creating. And when I think about that, the invisible elements get me to show up on a different energy level. That's why when everybody's like, oh, hey, I want to focus on the outside stuff. Tell me what to say. Tell me what it needs to look like. Tell me what blah, blah, blah. They forget that this key element is the invisible elements, right? And that's really what we want to talk about today. We want to talk about those invisible things. Now, this is something that we talk a lot about inside of our programs. It's something that I literally have flowing through my mind every time that I'm in a situation where I'm going to put myself out there. And that is like, am I focusing on the invisible elements or am I getting back into the visible elements? Those are like the tactics. Those are like the things to do. And if I'm not first identifying that mindset, that internal thing, the thing you can't see, like if somebody opened my brain, they'd be able to see it, but nobody could see that. All they could see is the manifestation of what happens on the outside. But when you're able to focus on those invisible elements, the outside will figure itself out. The outside will catch up. Like my mentor Josh always says, like your outward success is a reflection of your inner growth. Because those invisible elements help you to create the best visible elements that are here on the outside, all right? And that's really why I want to talk about not only true coaching, but I want to talk to you about this idea of confidence versus self-confidence, okay? Confidence versus self-confidence. By the way, I talk a lot about true coaching, life coaching. We have our own Push Coach certification school that I've co-created with Josh. Really, it's all about the invisible elements. And when you can help people identify the invisible elements that are actually holding them back, because I'm talking about all the positives right now, but there's a lot of invisible elements that don't serve you. Things that I'm like, I'm not good enough. This means that I'm, whatever those things you're making on the outside mean something about you as a human. Those things are not positive invisible elements. They actually pull from you and it pull from your full potential. And really that's what we do inside of Life Coach School is inside of our Life Coach School is because we help people identify those invisible elements, how they are actually shaping their life right now, and give them a different path if they choose to decide to go down that path. And so that's what I want you guys to be able to do today, is I want you to be able to choose, all right? I want you to be able to choose. Now, I want to start off by talking about this difference between confidence and self-confidence, all right? This is something that one of my mentors, Brooke Castillo, taught me when I went through my own certification. And it was like an eye-opening experience for me personally because I really didn't understand the difference. I kind of like interchanged the words, confidence and self-confidence. I thought they were the same thing, but they're not. You see, confidence is based off of something that you've done before. It's based off of the past. It's like, hey, if I want to pour a glass of water, how confident am I that I'm going to be able to not spill the water? Now, if your kids, my confidence level in my kids doing it is not so high. But for myself, if I've done it 1,000 times, I'm going to be like, this is no problem at all. See, self-confidence is different than that, all right? Self-confidence is not based off of the past, it's based off of the future. What self-confidence says is that you have belief in yourself despite any outside evidence. Let me say that again. Self-confidence is full belief in yourself despite any outside evidence. It's not based off of things that happened in the past. Can you imagine if all we could do is things that we've done in the past? Like that would totally suck. And actually that's what our brain gets us to do is to like be like, oh, well, you're not confident in that thing because you've never done it before. But my brain goes to, okay, that's great because I can have self-confidence. That's confidence in myself. And I don't need any evidence that I can succeed in this. And here's the reason why. This is the caveat. There's only 2 outcomes from anything new that you try. There's only 2. Number 1 is you succeed the first time. And number 2 is you learn and you grow. Can I tell you that this one over here is where I learn more from? It's what people pay me thousands of dollars to help teach them. It's this thing over here that I screwed up for a very long time and I found a different way. And people are like, I want help too because I'm going over here too. The things that happen first time for me, the things that are like totally easy, like I don't even know if it was a fluke, and I don't learn that from that stuff, and I definitely don't have people coming to me telling me, hey, the first time you did this, it seemed to work. Let's kind of talk about that. No, it's the things that like I've struggled with, the things that I tried, and I failed, but I learned and I grew and I tried something different. Because if you never try anything new, you're never going to be able to create anything new. And that's why self-confidence is just an entirely different system than confidence. So when you're saying this out loud, I really want you to think about this. Like, are you confident in that, or are you self-confident? Meaning you have confidence in yourself, knowing that you're going to go out there, you're going to feel afraid, you're going to be whatever, but you're going to do it anyway because you know there's only two possible outcomes. Now, you may not know this, but I just literally planted a seed of belief inside of you. I planted this thought, guys. Like, I like to actually share when it is that I do that, because I want you to know that that's the opportunity you have for others, but that's literally what just happened. Like 10 minutes ago, before you started this podcast, all of these things still existed, but you may not have had that confidence in yourself because you never had it framed like this. By me framing it now, you've now implanted something in here. If you decide and you choose to believe it, that you will, like, literally, it can change and transform your life. Now, the reason why that's so powerful is because the confidence we have in ourselves, and really, this is with everything, it's stemmed by the thoughts and the beliefs that we have in here. There's certain pieces of sentences that we tell ourselves. There's certain questions. By the way, I always think that whenever we have a natural reaction to something, it's because our brain has asked ourselves a question, and even if it's unconsciously, the answer is what we really think about. And even thinking of, when we say think about it, I mean a lot of it is like unconscious. It's like 95%. But when you can bring awareness, when you go through life coaching, when you understand that, hey, I can bring awareness to this, that's where you kind of like understand where you're actually holding yourself back. Now, when I talk about like the stories that you focus on, I really want to make sure that there's a few different stories that if you've ever heard yourself say this, or you ever had the feeling that results from these stories or from these thoughts, that you bring awareness to it, because this is actually what's holding you back. It's not the fact that you don't, that there's something on the outside that has proven to you that you don't have confidence or you won't succeed in that. All right. Now, here's a few different stories that I want to make sure that you focus on and you bring to your attention if you've ever said this or thought this. All right. I'm not good at leading. I'm not good at leading. There's something wrong with me and what I'm doing. I'm different from other great leaders. I don't know how to lead. Fear must mean that I'm not confident. Confidence is either something you're born with or you have it. You don't have it. There you go. Confidence is either something you're born with or you don't have it. Now, those stories will actually help you manifest whatever it is that story was that you said. So if you said, I'm not a good leader, you will literally program your brain to find all the reasons why that's not true. What's crazy, guys, is if you focus on some of the stories I'm going to talk about in a minute, you could be presented with the same exact opportunity, but you can see how like this is actually something that you absolutely needed to go through. This is an important part of the process so that you can grow and become that kind of leader. I mean, this is going to be something you can talk about later. You can help support people through while they're going through this process. That's what growth is all about, all right? Some new stories that might help. This is a part of the process in developing my leadership. This was supposed to happen. What others think of me is 100% about them. So what others think about me is 100% about them. Failure earns my success. I was made to do this. This is just one big science experiment. One of the things that I use a lot is like, there's people out there that are suffering that needs my help, and I refuse to stay comfortable and never give them the opportunity of changing their life like this has changed mine. When I realized, like for me, purpose is like such a deep thing for me. When I realized that there's people out there that are suffering and I could help them in that, whether or not they decide to do it, I have to present it. That gives me the confidence to know I'm going to go up on stage and I'm going to have 1,000 people there, and maybe I'll rock it and maybe not. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to help change somebody's life. That's for sure. And when I lead with that kind of confidence, guess what happens? You actually manifest that. You actually go out there and you find it. It would have happened anyway, but because you're focused on the negative, because you're focused on the lack, the scarcity, the fear, you would have actually manifested that as well. So really, it's about increasing your confidence comes from changing your thoughts and your stories that you have about yourself, right? And really reframing it. So you have to work against the beliefs, the things that you've like literally been not born with, but the things you've literally picked up along this journey. For me personally, 44 years of having limiting beliefs, things popping up. I'm never enough. I've got to do more. I've got to work more. If you guys haven't seen, like we have a lot of podcasts about like overworking and outworking and burning out and those kind of stuff. Can you guess why I'm talking about that? It's not because I never experienced it. It's because I experienced it for a very long time. And I thought that that was just the way that it had to be. And so when I find things that I can help you with, I'm 100% in for sharing it, all the positives and all of the negatives, all right? But really, you got to make sure that you are focusing on those thoughts, the things that are in here that are actually getting you to show up on the outside and actually manifest what you're actually thinking about over and over and over again. And we all know the best leaders actually have this level of self-confidence. Like you may not know it, but when I'm backstage about to talk to a group of people, or if I'm like on about to jump on, like let's say some kind of podcast recording or some kind of workshop, the person that I'm about to jump on with, if there's somebody else, or I guarantee you they're nervous. I mean, I can't tell you how many times you're like, wow, really, you're nervous? Like you've done this so many times. And it's because their head voice is very loud too, but they choose instead to believe in themselves and focus on the voice of their heart and get away and have a way of showing up, knowing that only two things can happen. They could do it and just freaking rock it, which is what most of these people do over and over and over and over again, or they're going to learn from it. And every time when you have that ability of, hey, I'm either going to do it well or I'm going to rock it, I'm going to do it well or I'm going to learn from it, it's just an entirely different energy that you bring to the entire event and you actually manifest that, all right? So I want you guys to find the stories that fuel you. I shared a bunch of them here today on the podcast, but I want you to grab the one that actually feels real to you. Here's the thing. If we were having a one-on-one conversation, I would ask you some powerful questions to pull out what yours is, because everybody's is a little different. Notice I shared multiple different stories. I shared like multiple different stories that are from your head voice and multiple different stories that could be from your heart voice. But everybody's an individual for a reason. You need to find that piece that works best for you. Maybe one of the ones that I shared is not like one that's going to actually help you out. And as you go, you continue to progress and level this up. Right? It's not something you think of once and then that's just as great as it's going to get. No, you got to make sure that it's giving you that feeling inside that you want to have, so that way you can show up and take those behaviors, those visible elements. But it all starts with the invisible. All right? So find that for you, focus on it, write it down. If it feels great, why wouldn't you read it to yourself every freaking morning? Copy it, paste it on your to-do list, and fuel yourself with that before you get into your behaviors, all right? Don't wake up, just jump into your behaviors. No, fuel it. Find those invisible elements, and you are going to totally rock your day, all right? So let's end with a quick quote here, like we always do on Monday episodes. Coaches and leaders create light for others, especially during the darkest of times. Coaches and leaders create light for others, especially during their darkest times. That's really what I believe coaches and leaders do. That's the ability that you have to go out there, to help people, to generate your own self-confidence so that you can overcome that and actually help change people's lives. I know you've got it inside of you. I greatly appreciate you for listening to another podcast. If you haven't rated or reviewed the podcast, I would greatly appreciate it. Regardless of what you do, take this, focus on the stories that fuel you, and I appreciate you guys so much, and I will see you on Thursday's episode. All right, bye.